20 minutes?
20 minutes, yeah. Hi, my name is Fabio Niepauers. I'm a master student from the Hasso-Plattner Institute in Potsdam, and I'm here to present the Smalltalk CI paper. Smalltalk CI is a continuous integration framework for Smalltalk projects. But let's start with our motivation. Well, I'm also a teaching assistant, and we have students that do the software engineering lecture, and during these lectures we make them work on Smalltalk projects in Speak Smalltalk, and we ask them to apply the things that they learn during the lecture, like extreme programming practices. But 2 years ago we thought this might also be a great opportunity to introduce them to version control management systems, because they're quite important, and also the continuous integration extreme programming practice. So for this we thought, well, we can use GitHub and Git repositories. It's very popular, and it's very likely that they've used this before. They can use the platform to collaborate. These are actually slides that we show the students. So this is just a real simple introduction basically. They can use the issue tracking system, the wiki system, pull requests to collaborate, and they can connect using Slack or Trello and organize things. For the continuous integration part, we thought it would be good to use Trello CI, which is probably the biggest continuous integration service that you can get for GitHub. They offer free continuous integration tests for your GitUp project. So basically what they do is they pull your code. Whenever you push code to GitHub, they pull your code, they try to build your software. You have to instruct them how to do this. And as you can see here, Smalltalk is now supported too. So this is what the toolchain looks like for the students. They have their Speak project, they use Trello for dependency management, they use FileTree to export their Smalltalk code onto the file system and then save this in a Git repository, and they push this repository to GitHub, and then travelers will build their software using something that is called Builder CI. So that was 2 years ago. Builder CI was then maintained by Dale, and basically just did basically just loaded the project, ran the test, and gave some feedback. But it turned out that after a while, students had real problems setting Builder CI up. It was quite hard and was difficult to debug problems. So this was a pain, not only for us, but also for the students. So we thought we need to make this better, we need to learn from the mistakes. If we teach them continuous integration, the first impression shouldn't be bad, it should be good, because it's a great practice, I think. So here's a list of the design goals and decisions, some of them that we came up with. We wanted to support different Smalltalk images, not only Squeak. So currently we support Squeak, Gemstone and Pharaoh images. Smalltalk CI can cope with this. Continuous integration only makes sense if you have a fast feedback loop. If your build takes 2 days, that's not really useful for your development process. But we also wanted to make sure that it's really as fast as possible. If there is a debugger, if a debugger pops up, you want to get this feedback straight away. There's no reason to continue the build. It should be lightweight, so few dependencies. The bootstrapping code, which is not written in Smalltalk, should be small because we don't want to deal with this too much, and the total file size should be small of the project, because every time you build a project, Smalltalk CI will be loaded as well. If we cause a lot of traffic, this will mean costs for Trello CI or for any other infrastructure, and we just want it to be efficient. Continuous integration only makes sense if it's reliable. So in order to make it reliable, we decided to have it self-contained. So all of its code is actually inside one repository. It doesn't have external resources, because other projects already depend on software that is hosted somewhere else. We didn't want Smalltalk CI to add to this problem. If one of the dependencies becomes unavailable, then your builds fail, and we didn't want Smalltalk CI to fail just because of that. And then, of course, continuous integration. This is a continuous integration framework. How do we continuous integration test that one? Well, we can use it to test itself, and that's what we ended up doing as well, and it turned out really good. We also wanted to make it independent from services like Travis, or there's also AppLayer and other services. So we opted for a dedicated configuration file. It's just a file that you add to your Git repository, and then your Smalltalk CI is able to load your project and test your project, because you have to find how to do this in the configuration file. It's just like a gem file in Ruby or package.json in JavaScript, or a requirements.txt for Python. Should be extensible, of course. We want to add a few features. We added coverage testing and things like that over time, and Gemstone, for instance, with Dale, and of course debuggable. So there should be some facilities to debug problems remotely, but also locally. Smalltalk CI can run in headphone mode on your computer. You can actually see what's happening while it's building your project, and you should be able to somehow reproduce builds. If they fail remotely, you can run the same thing again locally. So we built Smalltalk CI, and we do know a few people working at Trello CI because they're based in Berlin. And so we were actually able to add Smalltalk Support on the Travis platform. So this is the Travis documentation website. On the left there's a list of programming languages. It's pretty long, but you'll find Smalltalk in there, and this is actually the documentation. So Smalltalk is officially supported on Travis CI, and you can use that out of the box. So what does that mean? Let me just give you a quick example. Here's just a simple project. This one doesn't really exist. If you want to see how one can come up with such a project on GitHub, I'll give another tutorial in the afternoon, and then I'll do just a demo. I'll start a project from scratch and then set everything up. So here, what you see here, the packages directory, which is like a directory where you put in your packages, the file tree. You can call this whatever you like to, but usually it's packages or repository or something like that. Then there is a Smalltalk stun file, which is the configuration file for Smalltalk CI, and the Travis YAML, which is the configuration file for the Travis service. You notice there's also an AppWare YAML. This is just like the Travis YAML, a configuration file for AppWare. So AppWare is exactly the same as Travis. It does almost the same things, but it supports Windows builds. So Travis only supports macOS and Linux, but Smalltalk CI runs on all three platforms. So in order to have Windows builds, we use AppWare, or we support AppWare. And then there's a license, and we'll be fine. But what does such a configuration file look like? Here's an example. Very minimal Smalltalk stun file. It has a Smalltalk object in the Smalltalk object notation, which is a superset of JSON. So you can also see this nicely on GitHub. And basically this one instructs Smalltalk CI to load a Metacello baseline of my project from the packages directory on Speedfaro and Gemstone. That's all I have to tell it. Smalltalk CI will then figure out the dependencies, because Metacello knows which packages have been loaded, and then it will run all the test cases that have been loaded with this baseline. It also supports other load specs, like a Monticello one or a Gopher one, and you can also do configurations and stuff like that. The full documentation is in the README. If you have any problems, or if you think there's something wrong or something missing, please just open an issue. We'll try to fix it. So this is the configuration file that I need to add to my repository, and then I can run Smalltalk CI locally on my machine. If I want to now use a service like Travis CI, I can add a configuration file like this. So basically, here I instruct Travis to build a Smalltalk project. So language Smalltalk explicitly tells Travis that, so it knows to use the Smalltalk CI framework. The sudo false thing is a tiny hack that makes sure that you always use the fastest infrastructure that Travis can provide. And I left this in here because just wanted to mention that it doesn't run any sudo commands. Builder CI did that, and I was always afraid to run it locally. So sudo is not used anymore at all, and in fact Smalltalk CI just uses its own directory to work in. If you delete that, you have Smalltalk CI wouldn't go on. Yeah, like I said, Linux and OS X is supported on Travis, so I can select the operating system and I can select target images. Here it's just a few Speedfaro and Gemstone images. You can select out of 14 at the moment, and we continuously add new versions as they are getting published. And then you have something like this. So this is the CI project on GitHub. You can see here there are different builds for Pharaoh, Speak, and Gemstone, and they ran actually quite fast, I think. Gemstone took 10 minutes maximum, which is decent considering it sets up a stone, it loads the project and runs more than 1,000 tests. So if I click on one of these items, I get something like this at the end. It's just a list of all tests that have passed. If there's something wrong, I would also see this. And yeah, in fact, there's more than 1,300 tests ran here in 20 seconds. This is the end of the file, and here's an example of a build failure. So here are a couple of tests that failed, and I can expand each entry, and then I can see the stack and the problem. And hopefully this helps already to fix the problem. If it doesn't work, you get this notification on the bottom, the instructions how to reproduce this build locally. So you can just run that command locally, check out the code of course, and then yeah, you can literally see what's failing, and then you can fix it using a debugger or whatever you want. Smalltalk CI is already used by quite a few projects on GitHub. This is just the end of the README file where you can add your project if you want to. Just open a pull request. If you click on the more project links, you'll see all Smalltalk CI specs that are currently on GitHub. And I checked before the paper, before we submitted the camera ready version, we had 92 projects or something like that. Just before Isaac started, it was 114. I think yesterday it was 125. I have no idea what's happening right now. But people are using GitHub a lot, and now using Smalltalk CI as well for their CI. What do you want to do in the future? Well, of course, use Smalltalk CI on other platforms. It shouldn't be a problem, since you can run it locally on a Jenkins or GitLab CI or a Circle CI. It's not attached to Travis, it's just built into Travis for convenience. We want to add more Smalltalk images if there are use cases and if people are interested. Moose is already supported, so Moose 6.0 was recently added, was recently released, and we added it to Smalltalk CI. Recently, we moved the Coq virtual machine to GitHub as well. It's now called Open Smalltalk VM, and we helped Elliot to do the migration. And now everyone can collaborate on it on GitHub, which is great. But it's also built by Travis, and you can always download the latest executables for your favorite Smalltalk project. So it would be cool to also have the ability to select certain Smalltalk VMs, like the latest Open Smalltalk VM or a stable Open Smalltalk VM, if that is related, if this is important for your project. Or you can use experimental VMs like Squeak.js or Askweek. In fact, Askweek, if you check this out on GitHub, has a download link in all-in-one bundle, and the all-in-one bundle is built using Smalltalk CI. So Smalltalk CI pulls the VM Maker package, runs a few tests, the tests that are passing, so we make sure that we don't have any regressions, and then it uses that image that comes out of it and bundles it with a recent Askweek VM, and then you have this all-in-one bundle, and we get new all-in-one bundles every 24 hours for free. We don't have to do anything, it's just automated. Well, I just saw the iceberg presentation. I'm very interested into that too, because now that we have the continuous integration problem solved, we want to make it easier to put code onto GitHub or on other Git repositories or something like that. I call this the two-commit workflow. So currently you need to save a version in Monticello, then you need to save a version with Git on the command line, and basically what you're doing is you're duplicating the version history, which is not really necessary. So there are ways to make this better, and also FileTree has some. Currently, it still uses some metadata, and these metadata, which are saving the version history, they're causing merge conflicts. So you can't really do a pull request right now on GitHub, which is a great feature, but I can't use it because metadata always causes merge conflicts. So there is an approach to remove metadata, the metadata-less file tree, and it would be great to support this by default on all platforms. Yeah, last but not least, now that we have this configuration file for Smalltalk CI, and it instructs Smalltalk CI to load your project, you can also use this configuration file to load it into your user's image. So it would be cool to use this configuration or to provide the ability to load GitUp projects in a uniform way. So all I have to do is like click on that load view button, and then it would open my image and it would start downloading the code and loading everything. This would be cool because this makes it easier for people to get started with your project. What would be also pretty cool and going into the same direction is a one-click tryout. So you basically click on try this out online or whatever you want to call this badge, or it doesn't have to be a badge, it can be on your website, and it opens your browser and opens Speak.js for instance, and then loads the code and gives the user the ability to try out a project without having to download a VM and an image and then trying to load the right baseline or configuration. This would be really cool to have people getting started. And I think this is a great thing about GitHub. People outside of the community can access it and they see everything in there. They can collaborate, they can interact with you easily. And so why not making it easier to get started? So to come to a conclusion, Smalltalk CI makes it easy to test Smalltalk projects, which is especially great for for cross-dialect Smalltalk project like Trello or Seaside. I can just write my code in my favorite Smalltalk image. I can export it into the Git repository or locally or something, and then I can run Smalltalk CI, and it does the integration test in a different image. And this is, I think, really useful. Smalltalk CI enables easy access to free continuous integration services. Lots of programming languages on GitHub, and they're using all these tools. So why can't we just leverage that as well? I don't want to maintain a Jenkins instance and update this on a frequent basis. It would be cool to just leave this to the Travis guys. They do it for us. That's what they do. And also, I can run Smalltalk CI locally, and it helps me to debug problems easily. If you're interested, come and check out the tutorial later, like I said. And yes, it's already used by more than 100 projects on GitHub, which is, I think, phenomenal. We started with Smalltalk CI last year in December. I think it was officially supported earlier this year, and now it's August. So this has been great. Yep. And any questions, ideas, feel free to contribute.
Any questions? Okay.
So I didn't see any plans for supporting good works on VA. That has probably a reason. What are the reasons to not support this?
Well, currently the reason for me would be that I have not worked with it before, to be honest. So I have worked with Squeak and Furrow and Gemstone, well, not even with Gemstone. The reason why it supports Gemstone is because Dale was keen to help add support for it. I helped him with this, but basically most of the work was done by Dale, and we communicated over GitHub issues. So it's the first time that we actually met. So I do know that Visual Works, I think, supports file tree. So it should be able to load Smalltalk CI, and then you need to implement a few things to get Smalltalk CI working in this environment, but it should also work. Of course, there's maybe a licensing problem if this is open source. I don't know how this will work out, but I'm not against adding it. So if you're keen, please open a pull request or start thinking about it, how this could work. Smalltalk CI basically just has the concept of a virtual machine and an image, and it just downloads an image that you have selected, it picks the appropriate VM, and then it starts to bootstrap itself in that image. I haven't done it with Visual Works yet.
So one question is, I just don't get how the continuous integration service is monetized. So where you know.
Well, they do offer a pro plan that you can use to test private repositories. If you're working in a company, and I do know a few startups that are using GitHub, for instance, as their main platform. They don't want their code public, they have private repositories and they want to use Travis as well, and then they have to pay Travis a fee. Also, Travis CI offers on-premise services for some companies, and that's, I think, how they make their money. Yeah.
And then the other thing is various forms of file system in user space. Views are available on the 3 platforms. So are you investigating eliminating file tree and virtually exporting the code directly?
So you want to, what do you want to do? You want to get rid of file tree at all?
Yes, so Fuse is a socket-based communication that allows you to export any hierarchical data structure as if it's a file system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get to mount it, right? So you get to mount a socket.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Smalltalk image, you need a TCP/IP connection, essentially, that exports it, and then there's like 40 requests that come in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you respond to that, and that allows you then to respond directly without having to externalize the files.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about this. Well, Iceberg seems to be an approach. They try to add code without having a working copy on the file system, and it's actually the first time I was thinking about it. But I don't know, I'm not sure. The thing is, every programming language out there, except the live programming ones, they're file-based. So usually you file out your code and then you put it in there. So the file system is the abstraction layer, and that allows you to use Git, Subversion, Mercurial, whatever it is. I think maybe it does make sense to serialize it out. I think I like the file tree format as well. I can just open it up in my editor and code in my favorite editor and then serialize everything in. If I want to do a huge refactoring that is uncommon, I can use whatever tool I want. I can write my own script in my own programming language.
You could do that with Fuse too. It's just that the files never appear on the disk. Right? The files are effectively generated in response to requests.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, that might be interesting. Well, it's currently using file tree because that's the only way to put things into Git at the moment. If there's other opportunities, other frameworks, we can certainly add this. So I'm happy to add load specifications for whatever framework that's coming out. And if it is better than file tree, and once it is better than file tree, we can start using that and migrate everything. It shouldn't be a big problem.
Yeah, sorry, we will have to finish that now because we have 2 people left.